All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Noelle. She's the community director here. So good to be with you all tonight. So good to be with you all online people tonight. We're glad you're part of this community.
Yeah.
Glad you're here. If you're online, you'll probably notice, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, it says it's like the title of last week, but you didn't go back in time. If you're on the live, you're in the right place, so just stick around. We'll update those titles later tonight. But I didn't want them to think they went like a time zone.
That's where your head went, that they went back in time.
That they went back in time.
Okay.
That's where we go, all right?
We'll pray for you.
All right, y'all, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction, create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And as always, there is one thing we do not do. Y'all can shout it out on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame, but speaking of, well, this is weird, not speaking of, but speaking of, December is absolutely packed full of all kinds of good things coming up. So if you have a notebook, you want to take some notes on this because it's packed full of goodness.
Yeah.
Noelle, do you want to tell them everything coming up in December?
I would love to. If tonight is your first night here, welcome. We are so glad you're here with us tonight. I know I met with Mary Beth and Kenny before service and got them hooked up with a welcome bag. So if it's your first night here, we'll get you one as well. And inside this welcome bag, it has a little bit about what we do here at Free Recovery Community. There's some fresh roasted wagon coffee in this welcome bag and just some other swag items. So get a welcome bag from a staff member or a home team member and just know that we are so grateful you are here with us tonight. So first up, it's December 2nd. It's a Monday evening. It's going to be from 6 to 7:30 in the cafe right next door. But we will have a one-night Advent evening. So this is a night of spiritual connection and community. Rev Ryan and Carrie, our associate executive director, is going to be running this for us. It's a potluck, so please sign up for an item to bring. But y'all do such a good job with this every year. So
it's a lot of fun.
Great.
I
Yeah.
hope you come.
And later that week, on Saturday, we are going to do a sip and shop. So you guys know we pack our cafe with local vendors. We have a hot sauce guy. We have local jewelers. If you're looking to showcase your small business or know of someone who is, please get with Tammy or Carrie on this. And so that's going to be from 4 to 8, right before and during service on December 7th. It's a Saturday. And then we have our Ha Ha Holidays event.
Yes.
And we did this last year, and we packed out this entire room. There's like 250 people, and then we had overflow. We have professional comedians come in, some that are in recovery. It's a great evening. We team up with the Phoenix on this. It's going to be an ugly sweater event, but you must register. So please get on our website or the Phoenix's website to register, and it's going to be December 12th at 7 p.m. And you guys are going to want to get here early for that night because it gets
get here
busy
early,
quick.
and we're also supposed to say too that it's an 18 and over event. There's no kids allowed at this one. Sorry, kids. But you know how comedians are. They like to do adult content. So 18 and older.
Yep. And you got roasted pretty good last year.
I did get roasted.
It was awesome.
In the front row.
Front row. I've never seen his face turn so red. It was the best. So
Wasn't that
hopefully
bad.
it's round 2 this year. And then on December 20th, it's a Friday evening from 5 to 8. We are going to have a parking lot party back here at Free. So we have a dessert food truck coming in, and man, he's got some incredible cake pops, all sorts of stuff. He's also doing hot chocolate, apple cider. First 150 people get to eat for free, and we'll have heat lamps and bonfires out there. It's going to be awesome. We're also asking that you bring gently used coats, hats, mittens, adult only, please, but we are going to bring the wagon out there and just collect some items to give to those who need them this winter season.
Yeah, we're partnering with the Hornbuckle Foundation for that one.
Yep,
and we can fill up the wagon. Let's do it, y'all.
Yeah, it'll be great. And then that next day, December 21st, will be our Christmas Eve service. So no, it's not on Christmas Eve. We're staying true to our Saturday night service. Our Saturday night services times will stay the same, 5 and 7. But we'll do our candlelight service on that Christmas Eve. And we're going to have some live performers and do our candlelight service. That's always really powerful. It's going to be a great time.
The one and only Mickey Waisaki will be here singing.
I've heard of him.
And Shannon,
Let me tell you guys, Mickey and Shannon were practicing at our house for the Christmas Eve service, and it's going to be a powerful night.
Yeah, it'll be great.
They can sing way better than I ever can.
Yeah, and we'll sing a little Silent Night, hold up the candles, light up the world together. It's going to be all kinds of meaningful.
It'll be awesome. Well,
Okay, thank you, Noelle. All right, y'all. The way we start here on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good. Maybe you are here tonight and you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or a birthday, or maybe whatever the new thing is in your life or your recovery. Maybe it's a new job, a new home, new babies, new whatever it is. We celebrate it all here. Nothing is too big or too small. If you're online, you can drop your celebrations in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, and we'll join with you there. For those of you in-house, who has a mic? Elizabeth does, and Adam on this side. So just raise up your hand, and we take 3 minutes for this. You can give us the good news. This time is yours.
Hi, my name is Alicia, and I am a year sober today.
All right, Alicia, congratulations. 1 year.
My name's Andrew. I have 69 days today.
All right, Andrew, happy 69 days. Glad you're here, dude.
Hi, my name is Lauren, and tomorrow is my 1,000th day sober. And I'm trying to look at things a little differently, and as hard as this year has been as a parent, I just want to say I'm really grateful I didn't have to do this year, my first year of sobriety, because I've done the work and I've been able to handle it appropriately. So thank you.
Yeah, congratulations, Lauren.
I have, my name's Connor, and I have 30 days today.
All right, congratulations, man.
I'm Charlie, and today is 395 days sober.
395. Way to go, Charlie.
Hi, my name's Andy. My wife's birthday's today, and she's 45 years old.
All right, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Who's gonna win? Adam or Elizabeth? All right, Elizabeth won.
I'm gonna let ladies be first. I didn't even see that coming. I'm Colin. I just finished my first week of PHP at the Meadows in their trauma program. The past 12 days have been the best 12 days of my life. Recovery is cumulative. Never, never, never give up.
Yeah, that's a good word, Colin. Glad you're here, man.
One more. My name is Amanda, and I celebrated a year sober on November 6th.
All right, way to go, Amanda. Congratulations to you. Front row.
Hi, my name is Shelley, and I completed my IOP program on Wednesday, and I have 4.5 months sober.
4.5 months sober. And she's our guest storyteller tonight. Y'all get to meet Shellbell, or Shelley, as we call her. Your friends, I learned to call you Shellbell. So I'm just trying to be in the know.
My name is Anna, and I'm celebrating. This is like the week last year I got out of rehab, and I've been sober since, so that's cool.
All right, congratulations. That's a big deal. Very cool.
Hi, my name is Carrie, and I have 3 years and 3 months sobriety.
3 years, 3 months. Way to go, Carrie. Anyone else? We got 15 seconds. Who wants to take us out?
I'm Brittany, and today is my 4-month milestone.
All right, way to go, Brittany. Glad you're here. Congratulations. All right, we got one more right next to you, Adam. Oh.
Hi, I'm Max, and I just finished my first semester back at school after being sober for almost 6 years.
All right, congratulations to you. Thank you, Adam. Elizabeth, do you want to join me up here? Sure. For those of you that don't know Elizabeth, thank you, Adam. Elizabeth is the chair of our board of directors. She keeps us in line and keeps us moving forward, and we're kind of we can be a rowdy crowd.
I do my best.
She does her best. Thanks for joining me up here. Do you want to take the first one as we take our, so what we do is just join with our online people for a moment, and you take the first one, then I'll take one.
Got it. This one is from Kaylin Laird. She is celebrating her dad's birthday today and the fact that she is clean and present for his special day.
Yeah, way to go, Kaylin. Those are the good moments. Congratulations. Kai says, congrats, everyone, celebrating 617 days free of fentanyl. Way to go, Kai. Always celebrating with you.
All right. right. And Brenda says, I got a new job. Another job. Such a relief.
Way to go, Brenda. We will celebrate that. I know it's been a journey. Congratulations to you. Thank you for joining me up here, Elizabeth. I can take that from you. Just leave it up here. Well, it's always fun to celebrate with you all. For those of you that don't know, we're in a 3-week series right now, called Mind, Body, Spirit. So we're in the last week of this series, but I'll let you know what's coming up next. Next will be our Advent and Christmas series. We'll spend all of December in this one. It starts next week, so actually part of November. This one is called Getting Lit for the Holidays, but not that kind of lit, but a different kind of lit. It's going to be all kinds of fun. I hope you join us for those weeks in November and all of December. And tonight, as I've said, it's 3 weeks, Mind, Body, Spirit. Tonight is Spirit. Well, before I say anything else, I want to remind you all that you can come into this space with all of your questions and all of your doubts, and you can still have an authentic spiritual connection. And it's important to say because, last week, if you were with us at the 7 o'clock, some of you here might remember this. We start with celebrations and we close with what we call heartaches. That's the burdens that we carry. We try to carry them alone. So it's the places where you need some prayer, some lifting up, some encouragement. And Kayla, if you're watching tonight, I'm so glad you put these simple words in the online comments last week. You were joining us online, and Kayla said, prayers for struggling with the God thing. And I'm so glad she was brave enough to put that, because she wasn't just speaking for herself in that moment, but she was speaking for so many other people. She gave us the great reminder that you are not alone. Some of you, the truth is, you can be in recovery. You've experienced the sense of resurrection, new life. You've had the obsession of alcohol or drugs relieved, and it's a miracle, and yet you can still at the same time struggle with the God stuff and struggle with spiritual connection. And I want to say to you tonight, if you're there, that's okay. Like totally okay. It's always interesting to me that Jesus, if you look at the New Testament scriptures, Jesus was never bothered by doubt or the struggles of the people. In fact, there's this beautiful story at the end of Matthew's Gospel, chapter 28, and we've looked at this story here before, so I don't want to go deep into it, but I do want to re-highlight it for you. It's the end of Matthew's Gospel, chapter 28. Jesus has been resurrected, new life, raised from the dead. And he says to his friends, his disciples, his followers, he says, listen, I want y'all to meet me on top of that mountain. Because apparently if you go through something like being raised from the dead, you do not invite your friends to meet you at the local Denny's. You know what I mean? You pick a more sacred spot, like a mountain. Here they are on top of this mountain, and Matthew drops this simple line on us. Check it out. When they saw him, so here they are on the mountain, when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. Now, if you're Matthew, why tell the story this way? Why not just leave that second part out? I mean, if you're trying to convince people that Jesus is who he said he was, why add that piece, dude? Just leave it out. Now, why at the moment when the story is at its peak, does Matthew, the gospel writer, the storyteller, come along and say, oh yeah, and by the way, a bunch of his own followers doubted him? I mean, it's a total buzzkill, right? Now, keep in mind, the New Testament is written in the original language of Greek language. New Testament is written in Greek, so we have to do some translating. That word doubt, some doubted, it's this really fascinating Greek word, distazo. Yeah, say it with me, distazo. Distazo literally means distance, standing at a distance, uncertainty, vacillating between which way to go. And some of you are still thinking, yeah, but it's a terrible marketing strategy, isn't it? I mean, Matthew, it's just terrible. Why would you do that? And I would say to you, maybe that's not Matthew's point. Maybe Matthew is telling us more of this profound insight on what it means to be human. That some people, man, they just believe and they're good with it. And others, well, they stand at a distance and they're not quite sure what to do with it all. And I love this story because in this story, all of it belongs, the whole thing. And if you were to go on and read all of chapter 28, you would see that Jesus speaks to all of them together, because for Jesus, there is no categories. There's no us versus them. There's only us, and Jesus speaks to all of them. And do you know what Jesus doesn't say? He doesn't look at this group of doubters and say, you guys are just a bunch of idiots. I mean, how could you doubt me? I'm standing before you. Why are you so stupid? No. He looks at all of them together, and after painting the mission, casting the mission, he says to all of them, I will be with you always. Now, if you want to deepen your spiritual connection in your life, in my experience, you are going to have to get rid of this idea of God as a vending machine. And if I just push all the right buttons, then I'm going to get exactly what I want out of the deal. We'll have to totally get rid of it. Do you know, when I was preparing the message this week, I remember this experience that I had a few years ago. I was at the grocery store by our house, the King Soopers, and I walk in, I get my fruits and veggies, then I'm walking towards the cereal aisle, because who doesn't like a good bowl of cereal? And I'm walking towards the cereal aisle, and he sees me, I see him. I hadn't seen him in a while, and he says to me, Pastor, it's so good to see you. He goes on to say, it's almost like it's divine that I'm seeing you in this moment, because I could really use your prayers. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, you know, I'm getting ready to head up to the hill again, referring to Black Hawk, and I'm going to be at the casino tonight. And then he drops this line on me. He says, you know, since you're a pastor and all, that's one of the most triggering lines I can hear. And nothing irks me more than, since you're a pastor and all, as if I have a special connection to the divine, special access that you do not have. Since you're a pastor and all, if you could just shoot a message to the big guy upstairs, pray for me, that I could get the big win and everything. I was so proud of myself, because I did not say what I wanted to say. I did not say what I was thinking. Do you know what I was thinking? Dude, are you freaking serious right now? This is what I'm thinking. Are you freaking serious? Do you remember calling me 3 months ago? 3 months ago, you called me and you said, oh, dude, I just lost it all. I'm feeling so disappointed. I'm never going up there again. That was my last time. It was the same story I told with my drinking the last time. And I'm thinking to myself, do you remember the call 3 months before that? You said you lost it all. You felt so disappointed. This was your last time going up there. You're not doing it anymore. Now you want me to pray that God's going to give you the big win. Man, how did we get there? I mean, this is like ancient thinking stuff, isn't it? Because in the ancient world, the people would stand around and they would beg the gods and the goddesses to give them, to bless them. And the thinking was, if I could just do more, pray more, if I can sacrifice more, then the gods won't be angry and they won't punish us, but instead they will give to us. They will bless us. Man, how do we get there? Do you know, for years, I prayed very hard for my brother. The image of God that I had was that God was transactional, not relational, but transactional. God, if I do this for you, you are going to do this for me. I prayed so hard for him that he would be set free from his addiction. He was an addict, an alcoholic. I prayed that he would be set free. I prayed, and I was so certain that God was going to make him a great leader one day. And then when I was at the age of 18, he was 22. He died in active addiction. And I remember for years having the thought of, man, this God betrayed me. God, this is your fault. You did this. You could have stopped it, and you didn't. Man, I wasn't just a doubter, but I was the one standing at a great distance. Lots of distazo going on. I didn't trust that God. I didn't know that God. I didn't want anything to do with that God. That God betrayed me. Thank God for my recovery, my own recovery, that taught me the power, that freed me up to find a new image of God. That image of God had to totally die. You see, the truth is, some of you are here tonight, and you have experienced a great deal of harm from religion. Perhaps somewhere in your childhood you were given the box and you were told this is what you have to believe to be on the inside with God. And you were told if you don't believe these things, if you don't do these certain things, if you don't fit in the box, well, then you're on the outskirts with God. And now what? Some of you might be here tonight and you have experienced severe disappointment with you and your addiction, and you cannot figure out why this thing keeps winning, why you can't beat it. Some of you are here tonight, maybe you have experienced that you've just seen too much in the world. You've seen too many wars, too much political corruption, too many mass shootings. And you say to me, Ryan, when it comes to spiritual connection, when it comes to the whole prayer project, when it comes to the whole God thing, I just don't get it. And I'm not sure if it's worth it. And yet, I would say to you, but you're here. You're here. You might be done with all the bullshit categories that religion gave to you. Might be done with all the boxes and the boxes that you don't fit in. But you still have this longing for deeper meaning in your life, for deeper connection in your life. So I just want to spend the next few minutes with you exploring two things that prayer isn't and one thing that prayer is not. I'm sorry, two things that prayer is, one thing that prayer isn't. Are you with me? Okay, let's go then. Number one, what is prayer? Well, prayer is those moments you realize your need for a greater source and you begin tapping into the divine energy that is always flowing in your midst. And yes, I would say to you, it really is that simple. You are tapping into something that is already there, already present. And again, going back to Jesus, in Matthew's gospel, I love how simple he keeps it. Right in the middle of his Sermon on the Mount, the bread and butter of his teachings, he keeps it really simple. Here's what he says about prayer. Check it out. When you pray, don't be like hypocrites. They love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners so that people will see them. I assure you, that's the only reward they'll get. But when you pray, go to your room, shut the door, and pray to your God who is present in that secret place. When you pray, don't pour out a flood of empty words as the Gentiles do. They think that by saying many words, they'll be heard. This is Jesus at his best. Don't be like them. Now, you have to keep in mind, in the Greco-Roman world, the world of Jesus, it was common practice to stand in the public square and to beg the gods and the deities to come in, to beg them to say more, pray more. If I use more words, the prettier the arguments are, the better, and the gods are going to come be with us. And Jesus is saying here, man, don't y'all get it? You don't have to do this. God is already with you. God is already on your side. Remember from last week, your body is a temple. Where does the divine dwell? Right here. You don't have to do all the begging and pleading. Have you ever heard someone in a public space praying, and maybe you thought to yourself, oh my goodness, they're like really good. They're like really spiritual. Oh, they use these big, pretty words you know nothing about, big, fancy theological religious language. They have these really like a beautiful flow to these words, and you're like, whoa, I don't understand it. I can't relate to it, but I think it's really pretty. You know, honestly, more often than not today, my prayers are really simple as here. Sometimes I'll get like really fancy and I'll add one more word to it. Hear God. And I learned that prayer from my daughter, Shiloh, when she was about 4 or 5 years old. And that summer we went on a lot of hikes. And no matter which hike we went on, no matter how far away we would get from the car or from her house, she always did this thing. We'd be about halfway through, and she would do this thing where she would walk up to me, put her arms up, and she'd say, here, Poppy. And I always knew what it meant. It meant she was tired, her legs were giving out, she's got no more energy. Poppy, you get to be the one to carry me home. You see, y'all, maybe the most spiritual thing you can do is to admit your own weaknesses, to admit that you need help, to admit when you have nothing left, to admit when you're tired, and you say, here. You see, do you believe that God or greater source or higher power or ultimate reality or universe or whatever you call it, do you believe that God can and will do for you what you can't do for yourself? That this God can and will carry you. And the second thing about what prayer is, well, prayer always changes us. Because prayer is the process of that interior transformation. It's our way of seeing reality changes in this process. It's a restructuring of the consciousness so that we can see and act differently. It is always changing us. It isn't about changing them. In other words, if you spend all of your time and energy begging God to change them, well, my friends, you are completely missing it. It changes us so that we can be the change we want to see in the world. How many of you have that friend that is so eager to go out and change the world all at once? And it's great, but the problem is when they open their mouth or when they start to type on social media, well, they're like this big fiery ball of anger. Yeah, you see it all the time on social media. And the truth is we can do a great job at wanting to change the world, having the energy to change the world, but at the same time our inner lives can be an absolute wreck. And see, prayer teaches us how to be the change we want to see in the world, and it starts where? The inner life. And the one thing that prayer is not manipulating God to get what we want. That's those moments where you tell yourself, man, if I could just pray hard enough. Man, if I could just pray more, if I could use more words, maybe the right words this time, if the right people see me praying, then God's going to give me everything that I want. I'm just not doing it the right way. No, prayer changes us. It is not about manipulating God to get what you think you want. I want to remind you all, we are still in the midst of what they call a mental health crisis in this country. We are still in the midst of an epidemic of addiction. We are still in the midst of an opioid crisis. You do know last year nearly 110,000 people died of an opioid overdose. And why has the Serenity Prayer been a go-to for decades for the most broken people, for the ones who have painfully known the devastation of addiction? And some of you say, yeah, man, that prayer, I already know that one. Man, we pray it all the time in my meetings. We pray it here sometimes on Saturday nights. I already know that one. Well, let me refresh you the 4 simple lines. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Do you know I was not introduced to that prayer until I got into the rooms of recovery in 2013. And I was, by that time, already had spent 6 years in ministry. Did you know that Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, made this prayer well known? It made it popular. In fact, the founder of AA, Bill W., said these words, quote, "Never before," when he saw this prayer, heard this prayer, "never before had we seen so much AA in so few words." So I started praying this prayer early in my recovery, and I did not fully understand it. It was very difficult for me. It was difficult because I didn't know how to accept the fact that I was an alcoholic and also at the same time serving as a pastor. I didn't know how to accept that one. I didn't know how to accept when my sponsor said to me very early on, he said, "Ryan, your problem is you are spiritually disconnected." And I'm thinking, if I'm spiritually disconnected, then I have nothing. I have nothing. You see, and if I can't accept that reality, how am I ever going to have the courage to change? And God, give me wisdom, because my best thinking has left me drunk in a basement too many times. And y'all do know this prayer isn't just for those of you who might be new in recovery. No, it's for all those moments when you can't make sense of the world, but you're longing for this deeper meaning, a deeper connection. You know, I've heard recently people say things like, you know we're in the apocalypse, right? Now, all because this presidential election. We're living it. This is the end times. This is the apocalypse. And I say, really? I mean, really? Do we think we're the first ones in history ever to ask big questions and deal with big issues? We're not. We are not the first ones in history to be wrestling with things. This prayer, the Serenity Prayer, was written by the mid-20th century pastor and theologian Reinhold Niebuhr. Anyone heard that name? He wrote this prayer and began reciting it with his congregation in the 1930s, every single week. Reinhold Niebuhr was an inner city Detroit pastor. Times were difficult. If you remember anything about the 1930s and inner city Detroit, you know that they were dealing with the Great Depression. People in his community were losing their jobs, losing their homes, losing everything, total economic collapse. And they gathered together and they prayed this prayer. You might remember they were seized with the horror at the rise of the Nazis and their hateful ideologies, and they gathered together in community and they prayed this prayer. There was international violence in the Cold War and this race to build bigger and better bombs to kill more and more people. And they gathered together and they prayed this prayer, accepting the things as they are, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. And that's always the hard part, isn't it? Man, that's the hard part. I'll close with this. In the Old Testament book, or the Hebrew Bible book of 1 Kings, which is a fascinating book to read through. Well, Solomon had just become king, and he's facing some very difficult circumstances. He is surrounded by violence, and he has to lead these people. He has to govern these people. And the text tells us that God appears to Solomon in a dream. Solomon's asleep. He falls into this dream. And in this dream, God says to King Solomon, "Ask me for whatever you want. Ask me." Here's how Solomon responds. Check it out. "But I am only a little child and do not know how. But I'm only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant more money." Nah, that ain't what it says, is it? "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." In that moment, he asks for wisdom. He does not ask for long life or riches or victory over his enemies. And why is Solomon culturally, why is he referred to as one of the wisest people ever to live? It is not because of the great things he did. In fact, he made many profound mistakes. It is not for the great things he did, but it's for the one thing that he asked for, and that was wisdom. And I know if you're like me, well, your impulse, it creeps up, especially during moments of challenging circumstances, especially when things are hard. That impulse will creep up inside of you, and it will tell you to pray in the most selfish ways that you think are going to benefit you. God, just give me more money. That's going to fix this situation. God, just give me more stuff. That'll take away the pain. God, if you could just change them and make them different, then my life is going to be better. God, if you can just make them suffer, those evil people, those bad people, the ones who have hurt me, make them suffer, and then you wonder why you feel so spiritually disconnected. Because the truth is, we're all like a bunch of little Solomons, aren't we? I mean, we don't know how to carry out these life duties, especially if you're new in recovery. Man, we don't know what we're doing new in recovery. We're like kids. We don't know how to be adults. We're learning. We're coming to terms with dealing things like our feelings and our emotions and our past. Yeah, if you're here and you're struggling with the God stuff and spiritual connection, maybe your starting place is a very simple starting place. But I am only a child, and I do not know. And that means the whole thing starts with you getting honest. The whole thing starts with acknowledging your weaknesses, getting honest with your life. I shared with y'all last week that I was invited to write a very difficult letter this week. And because I had to remember that my body's a temple and God goes with me, I could write this difficult letter. But in the process of writing this difficult letter, which goes into the mail tomorrow, in the process of writing it, I had to get really honest with, why does this hurt? Man, why is it so hard for me to admit that I'm affected by pain? And y'all see why we need wisdom. Because most of our problems will never be solved with more money or more stuff or them changing or us getting revenge. If you are here tonight, you're struggling, I would invite you to pause. Ask for wisdom. Then you have a fighting chance at accepting the things that you cannot change. Then you have a fighting chance at finding the courage to change the things you can. God, give us wisdom, the kind that leads to serenity. So here's what we're going to do now. I want to play a song for y'all. It's by the great artist named Macklemore. This song is called A Drug Dealer. Man, this song was written out of this profound, difficult circumstance that Macklemore was facing. He speaks about big pharma and the struggle with that. And why I want to play this song is, one, it's really powerful. It can be a bit intense. But I love how he takes us through this story, and he closes the whole thing with, well, a particular prayer that you might recognize. Here's Drug Dealer. Take a moment and reflect. many of y'all have heard that song before? Oh, only a couple of you. Last service, it was like most of them. So I consider it a great honor to be able to introduce you to great music. All right. All right, y'all, if it's your first time with us on a Saturday night, you should know that each Saturday night since the very beginning of Free, which was in our backyard in 2018, when we started Free, we've always had a guest storyteller with us to share some of their experience, strength, and hope around the topic at hand. Tonight, I can't wait for you to meet Shelley. And I said this last service, I'll say it again, Shelley. Several months ago, it was more than a year ago, wasn't it? Yeah, it was last year. It was last year. Okay, last October. Shelley reached out to me and just said that she was struggling with the God stuff and she had some questions. And we connected a little bit, but we never fully connected. And then Shelley moved to Chicago in the last few months. I hope I'm getting the story right. Moved to Chicago. Anyway, Jerome, a few weeks ago when we were planning this series out, Jerome, who's on staff here, he says, hey, I got a great guest storyteller for the Spirit Week. And I said, who is it? He said, Shelley, and I didn't put two and two together. I didn't know who I was connecting with when we met on Zoom last week, and it dawned on me that it's the same Shelley that reached out about a year ago. Today, Shelley is on a different spiritual journey than the one she was raised with. She's going to talk about that. And as importantly, today, Shelley is clean and sober, been clean and sober for 4.5 months. She's going to share some of that story and what it all looks like today. So help me welcome my friend Shelley Price into the living room. All right, we'll do it one more time. There's your picture with your sobriety date because you had to get that last drink in on the 4th of July. Uh-huh.
I
we
sure
only
did.
laugh because we've been there.
Yes.
All right, Shelley, so that's what I didn't say in your introduction was Shelley was born and raised in the Southern Baptist Church. If you know anything about the Southern Baptist Church, she was raised in the South, so Southern Baptist Church in the South. I'm going to add one more layer to it all. Your dad was the pastor there, and this made things a bit sticky for you growing up. And what you found was you didn't fit into the religious box that was handed to you. And tell us kind of what that all looked like.
Yeah, so from a young age, I would say around the age of 10, I noticed that I was different and I didn't fit the mold that I grew up in. And like, to me, there's a lot of people in our community that stereotypes me as a preacher's kid. They would call me rebellious and like, living on the edge. And so there were all these things that I had to check, like a list of check boxes to check. And it was like doing your morning devotional, doing your evening devotional, going to church 4 times a week, going to Sunday school, being in the choir, being active in the youth group. And I started to think that these things I had to do in order to have a relationship with God. But then I started to notice that I was doing these things to please people, and I wasn't connected to God. And so that threw me for a loop for a while, and then that turned into a resentment, which turned into anger. And I was really angry at God, and I almost felt like God didn't love me. I kept asking myself, why me? Why me? Like, why couldn't my dad have a normal job? Like, being like a salesperson or a contractor, an accountant. Like, why do I have to be a preacher's kid? And so it led to this deep resentment towards God.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I told Shelley this when we met last week, when she was telling me this story and all the pressure of being a PK. Well, I have 4 kids, and I'm wondering, are my kids ever going to look at me and say, Poppy, why couldn't you just be a normal person? Why'd you have to go do this thing? Why couldn't you be a contractor or whatever you just mentioned? And it made me really aware of the pressure that you lived with. Now, this is the evangelical tradition, Southern Baptist Church, different than what we do here, I believe, pretty different.
Yes.
And we're not in the South. That's different, too. But explain to people, what did that guy say to you about your dad not being able to control daughters?
My sister and I have a younger sister. She was here earlier. It was really beautiful to have her here.
It was a moving moment.
Very moving. We were like sneaking out or being rebellious or like doing things we shouldn't have been doing. And someone in the church came to my dad and said, "Pastor, if you can't control your girls, you can't control the flock." And so that was a big pressure on me. Like, I have to straighten up. I have to act the part, be the part, behave a certain way in order to sustain our livelihood.
Yeah. So lots of pressure to live a certain way.
Yeah,
Wear a certain mask.
Yeah, wear a mask and almost have this like level of perfectionism. Like, I remember thinking, as long as I'm perfect, if I look good and I act good and I be good, then nobody can judge me. And the judgment and the shame and the guilt and the fear, that's something that I carried with me for years through the church.
Can you talk through that a little bit with us? I know you had a traumatic event at the age of 14 that was connected to the church. And that's also around the age that alcohol addiction entered the picture. What happened?
Yeah, so at 14, I had something very traumatic happen to me, and it got out in the community, at school, at home, and at church. And I adopted all these labels that people started calling me, and eventually I just felt like really lost and like I wanted to run away from God. I didn't want anything to do with the church. But then I was like, well, no, I'm going to try to rebuild my reputation. So for a year, I threw myself into the work of the church. I was way more active in the youth group. I would go on retreats. I would do like weeks at like OBU, which was a college nearby that we would go on mission trips. And so this entire year, I just dove into the church. But then people were still talking about me. So it hurt me to the point where I was like, well, if I'm not good enough, then I might as well just be bad. And then shortly after, I had my first drink.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you describe it that way. One of my favorite philosophers and theologian, Peter Rollins, he has a bit where he describes the church as a crack house. Because for all the pain we experience in life, he says, religious people, he says, they're so interesting because they just go to church week after week, and they try to fill this with the pain that they've experienced, and they expect it to fix them, and then they're hung over again the next week, and they come back to church to fix them, and he describes church like a crack house. But when you said, I kept trying to do all these things, the right things, mission trips, plug into the youth group, and those things didn't fix what was happening in here.
Yeah, I still had that stereotype and the judgment from the church. So eventually I ran away from the church. I ran away from home at 18. And then went to LSU and started really drinking a lot. And it led to 20 years of addiction.
20 years of active addiction. Mm-hmm. Tell us what happened on, was it April 7th of 2023?
Yeah, so April 7th of 2023, I was at a bar, shocker, and I was with my friends, a group of people that I just met, and it was not a good group to be with. I should not have trusted them, but we were at a bar, and someone offered me some cocaine that was laced with fentanyl, and I overdosed. I was out for 4.5 minutes. But by the grace of God, my best friend and an off-duty firefighter that happened to be the bartender that night did CPR on me to revive me and keep me alive until the paramedics came. And I have 3 memories from that night because I was out for an entire day. I don't remember. But the most powerful memory I have was when I was on the ground, when I was unconscious. I was laying there and this soft white light came, it's a bright white light, not a soft, it was a soft voice that spoke to me. But it was a bright white light that came almost like the sun, like when you turn, you face the sun and you close your eyes, like the way the light filters through your eyelids. That was the light that I saw, and in a soft, still voice, I heard, "I'm not finished with you yet." And I opened my eyes, and the 2 paramedics were standing over me. And so that moment in the darkest part of my life, like I had been in a really dark place for several months leading up to this, I saw the light. So for me, my higher power is light. That's what I consider God, is light.
God is light. And soon after that, you went to the Rally House. We
Yes.
had a whole, plethora
Shout
of
out to the Rally House.
people. Oh, we got some. Raise your hand if you're with Rally House. Oh, a few of you
Yeah.
here today. Good to have you all here.
Love all y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our saying.
Is that a thing, all y'all?
All y'all, yeah.
You really are from the South.
Yeah.
Shell Bell.
I don't know how we got that started. I'd like to take the claim for it, but
I'm
it
sure you
wasn't
did.
me. But yeah, on May 13th, 2023, I entered Rally House, and it was life-changing. I got to do a lot of trauma work, like EMDR, got to work on some things from my past, my traumatic event when I was 14, my religious trauma, and then they also brought me to my first meeting of recovery, which was at AA at the Rally House in DTC. And that was my first AA meeting. And I wouldn't be here if it was not for the 12 steps of recovery and the rooms of AA and CA. We'd also come here for Whiteout on Wednesday nights. And I would not have a relationship with God if it wasn't for AA. Like, God brought me to AA, and AA brought me back to God through the steps.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit. Just I know you didn't go back to an old way. You didn't go back to the thing you were raised in, but it doesn't mean that you left God out of things. You found I don't know how you describe it, a different image of God. You found a different spiritual path. What's that look like today?
Well, for me, in step 3, it talks about made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And that is in italicized, as we understood him. And that was really life-changing for me. That was a message I had never heard as a child, that I could have my own understanding of God. I didn't have to fit into that box that we talked about earlier. And then after step 3 is step 4, made a fearless and searching moral inventory of ourselves, where I wrote down all my resentments that I had for myself, all my resentments that I had for other people, and even my resentment towards God.
Yeah.
God was a big resentment on my 4th step.
Yeah, we did this last service. If you're a 12-stepper, raise your hand if God or religion was on your 12-step, your 4th-step. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
About half of y'all. See, we're not alone, Shelley.
Yeah. So once I wrote it down and put pen to paper with my sponsor, like I had the help of another alcoholic, I finally got to see that my part in it, and that what I was holding on to really wasn't that big of a deal. It was a lot smaller than I was making it up in my head. So like putting pen to paper was life-changing for me.
Yeah, getting it out of your head is life-changing.
Yeah.
It's changed. Before you even knew what my message was about, you told me that this spiritual path has changed the way you pray. How's it changed?
Yeah, so growing up, prayer was very theatrical.
Yeah. Explain it to those who may not know. Give us an example.
Dear Heavenly Father, Jesus Lord, I pray to you right now, my gracious Lord, my King, my Savior, like all the names like that Jesus or God, like it's like name dropping, but in a religious way.
Did you grow up with a lot of the just prayers? Lord, we just pray. Lord, we just this. And you're like, all the just prayers.
Yeah, all the just prayers. But my dad is watching right now, so I don't want to say too much about prayer, because he was the one leading prayer.
You raised a great daughter. Yeah.
So, but I do want to take a moment to say that my parents did a wonderful job raising me. They tried to shelter me as much as they could, but unfortunately, it was the nature of being in the evangelical church. It's just things happen. But so yeah, prayer is very theatrical. But now prayer for me in the past 4 months, because I was sober a year and 1 month, and back in June I had a relapse for 2 weeks. So my sobriety journey has been about a year and a half. But my continuous sobriety date is July 6th. Of 2024. And since then, I'm working with a new sponsor in Chicago, and we're working on step 1 and working on prayer. And for me, prayer is a way to be still, pause, and have conscious contact with God. And I pray not for myself, but for others and to be of service and for God to use me. Like tonight, I didn't even want to do tonight at first when I was asked. I immediately wanted to say no, but that was a selfish thing to do. So I was like, no, like God wants to use me.
Yeah, I believe that.
And that's why I really, my new prayer life is consisting more of praying for others than for myself.
Yeah. So beautiful, Shelley, and I'm so glad you were brave enough to share some parts of your story that I know haven't always been easy. It's been a journey. And let me say this. I told this to our 5 o'clock people. Seth, if you're watching online tonight, Seth lives in Chicago by Wrigley Field. Are
Seth,
you by Wrigley Field?
I'm in the neighborhood next door to Wrigley Field.
All right. Seth, if you're watching tonight, I hope I'm looking into the right camera. Seth is launching a free in Chicago. Oh, so I don't know if he lives by Wrigley Field, but that's the place he's looking at launching it.
That would be amazing.
He's getting his leadership team together. Things are moving forward. They hope to launch this fall, this late summer fall. So I want to put you in touch with Shelley in touch with Seth. I want you all to talk because how cool would it be if you could help get free started out there? That'd be awesome.
And be a part of a community like this one. It would be amazing.
And you know the vibe here, so you can help create it.
Yeah.
Okay, are you going to stick around a little bit and hang out in the cafe for just a few
I'm
minutes?
sticking around.
All right, if you want to talk to Shelley more and get to know more of her story, feel free to stick around. Shelley Price, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. So good to have you. Awesome. I'll take these. All right. Colin, would you be a mic passer? Who did I invite to do the other one? Man, you look like you'd be great at it. Say your name for me again. Anna, that's right. And you just got to turn it on. It's a flip, yep. I love that I can just put people on the spot here. If you hate me for it, you can talk to me later. All right, the way we close things down here on a Saturday night is, well, we start with celebrations, and we close with what we call heartaches. As I explained earlier, the burdens that you're carrying. Maybe you've been trying to carry those alone this week, and you find out that you suck at carrying these things alone, and it's why you have community. You need community. Why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So if you need some prayer, some encouragement, some lifting up, I encourage you to put words to the burden that you are carrying. We take 3 minutes for this. If you're watching, joining us online, put it in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. We'll join with you there. For those of you in-house, Colin has a mic on this side. Anna has a mic on this side. Just raise up your hand, and this time is yours.
My name's Andrew. I leave rehab on Monday after 72 days, and if history repeats itself, I'll be cracked out and homeless in 3 weeks, and I'm just asking for strength and wisdom to write a new story in my life.
Yeah. And if you stay connected to God and other people, maybe history will not repeat itself. Proud of you, dude. Thanks for saying that. Prayers for you, brother. Glad you're here.
I'm Colin. I have a friend, Johan. His nephew, Greg, was self-medicating with drugs and alcohol and accidentally overdosed, leaving behind his wife and 2 children. My friend Johan and obviously Greg's family are grieving.
Yeah. Prayers for them, Colin. Prayers for the grief.
Dan, alcoholic. Just wanted to first say that I loved hearing Shell's story tonight. There are a lot of people that came into my life. I went into Raleigh House this past summer, lived in isolation for some time, and went through a separation, pending divorce, lost a lot of friends, and just I would not be here without the close, dear friends that I met at Raleigh House, and I thank God every day for sobriety, for my health and safety, and thank God for a community of people that have been extremely supportive for me, and thankful to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Dan, thanks for sharing that, man. Glad you're here.
Hi, my name's Olivia, and I'm back home with my family, and I just hope it goes well.
All right. Prayers for you, Olivia. Glad you're here.
Hi, my name is Christine, and I'm asking prayers for my mother, Darlene. She's been having issues with her heart, and the doctors are just taking their sweet time, and she needs a clamp on her valve in her heart, and yeah, it's just a long time, and I just want her to feel better, and yeah, so prayers for Darlene, please.
Yeah. Lifting up Darlene tonight. Thank you, Christine. All right. Thank you, Anna and Colin. Colin, you want to join me up here, dude? Thank you. Colin, if you take the first one, I'll take the second one. We'll join with our online people. See what they have to say. You want the first one?
Sure.
All right.
Kaylin, a childhood friend of mine, overdosed on fentanyl in March and has been in a coma since. Her mom has been by her side this whole time. I ask for prayers for my friend and her mom.
Yeah, praying for your friend and her mom during still a difficult time. Glad you're here, Kaylin. Chance says, looking for prayers for my best friend and his family after losing his mother to cancer. Additional prayers for my cousins and family after my uncle's passing as well. Rough week. Yeah, Chance, sounds like you've been through it, dude, and people you love, so lifting you up and them up. Glad you're here tonight.
Karen, prayers for Steve's dad, Don, and Kyle's grandpa, who is in hospice and dying of cancer. It's been a difficult journey, and hope that Don will soon be reunited with his wife, Marion.
Yeah, lifting them up, Karen. Thank you for joining us tonight. Prayers. Colin, thanks for joining me up here, dude. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for passing around mics and being here and serving. And well, listen, y'all, if you have been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, if you call this place home, if you call these people, we people, us, if you call us your community, your tribe, your people, whatever you call us, you do need to know that we do rely on your generous giving here. We are funded by you, the people. So if you would like to donate, and I know many of you have made this a spiritual practice, a sacrificial practice in your life. We're so grateful for it. There's a few different ways. You can download the app, Free Recovery Community. All of our content, messages, guest storytellers are on there. There's a giving button. You can give one time, or you can do weekly or monthly. Recurring donors are really helpful because it helps us budget. And you can do the website, same thing, freerecoverycommunity.com. And there is also the giving boxes, one beside these doors, one just outside these doors for cash and check type people. And there is, of course, the dip jar, and I'm going to say more about that in just a moment. The dip jar is just outside these doors on a black table, a little boxy thing about this big. It's a cool little machine. You take your credit card, you dip it in, you dip it out, it lights up. You get to feel good about your giving. It's set at $20, so you can't give more than or less than $20. That's what it's set at. Now, let me say this very briefly. Some of you all saw the video. You heard the announcement already. I told you about some of it last week. We are remodeling the bathrooms. When we moved into this building 3 years ago, we spent the first 30 days. It was incredible. We had 250 volunteers. 30 days, we did new flooring, new lights, new paint inside and outside, built out the cafe. That took longer than 30 days. But we did so much work. The one thing we didn't touch is the bathrooms. And we hear from you all about the bathrooms, how like a 1970s-ish they are. We are remodeling the bathrooms. Now, I tell you this to tell you about Monday morning, and I promise I'll keep this brief. Monday morning, a buddy of mine comes up to me. And he says he's willing to give $5,000 towards this bathroom remodeling project. It's going to cost about $40,000 in total. He says, I want to give $5,000, but here's the deal. Before I give it to you, I want the community to match it. So it's got to be matched before we receive that. Swear to you, 30 minutes later, we find out from the Anschutz Foundation, they've been very generous partners for us, the Anschutz Foundation said, yeah, we'd like to give to that. And here's the deal. We want to give $10,000, but we want the community to match it before we give it to you. Y'all do the math. We've got to raise $15,000. We're going to start the project the week after Christmas, so we have a few weeks, not much time. We've got $15,000 to raise to really make that $30,000, which is pretty freaking cool. And I'll say this, just in the last 2 days since that message went out on social and email, we have raised just over $4,000 towards that 15. So if you'd like to give tonight, everything that comes into the dip jar the next few weeks until about mid-December will go towards the bathroom remodel project. If you give online and you want to give towards that, just in the memo put in bathroom remodel, or when you're online you can hit the drop down menu and it says bathroom refresh, something like that. You can do that. Just let us know. It lets us know where to allocate the funds. I hope you all participate. We've got a few more thousand, like $11,000 more to raise, and we can do it because I know y'all. I know the generosity and the kindness, and you care. So thank you for letting me give that spiel tonight. Shall we go out with a prayer? Yes. Yeah. If you Shelley, you want to join me up here like last time? Last time it was Shelley and her sister. It was a powerful moment. Yeah. But that one's not recorded, so no one gets to see it. We'll try to recreate a beautiful moment. All right, y'all, I encourage you to just open up the hands. Yeah, it's not magical. It's just a simple sign of you being open. Open to the divine that is always moving in our midst, within us, around us. Maybe you're open to a new way, a new connection. Maybe you're just like a little child. And you're here tonight and you say, I don't know which way to go. I have some doubts. It's okay. That's all right. God's still here. So if you don't know the Serenity Prayer, we'll pray it together. It's on your screen and it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Grace and peace to you all. See you next time.